Hi, afternoon guys. My name is Dan, I am Chief Product Officer at Locale. For those not familiar with Locale, we produce digital tools for the property industry. So we work with people like CBRE, Savills, BNP Paribas, Knight Frank, the Crown Estate. We've currently got about 45 million square foot of property using our systems. So we've been through a lot of the challenges that you guys are facing at the moment in terms of digital adoption and using digital tools to actually improve the user experience within your buildings. So that is what I'm here to talk to you about today. We're going to be running through what UX actually means. It seems to mean different things to different people. It could potentially mean something different in a digital environment to an actual physical workspace environment as well. We're then going to look at how we would design a system or a service to actually optimize for UX. How do you bake it in from the start? And then have a look at how we applied these principles to a case study from the Shard. Some work that we did for them, and then how we evolved that system. So let's start with what is user experience? What does it actually mean? Well, UX stands for user experience. It seems to sometimes be used interchangeably with the term UI, which is user interface. User interface is how something is laid out. It's the priority of the information that you're displaying. Whereas user experience is a much deeper topic. It's about actually defining which information you're going to be displaying in the first place, understanding customer problems and validating those problems, and coming up with a cohesive solution. So what does that mean for property? Well, whether you like it or not, people coming into and out of your building are having a journey, and they've got various touch points with your building and your services. And they're going to be having a good experience or a bad one at each of those points. So we're told that you have 7 seconds to influence someone's first impression. This is the issue the Shard came to us with. They wanted to provide a really good first impression for anyone working within the Shard. At the top of the building, they've got the view from the Shard. They've got 3 restaurants in there, they've got a hotel, they've got retail around the local estate, they've got residential apartments in there. And so they wanted to ensure that anyone that was coming in to work for a company based in the Shard would have a fantastic first experience. We'd done some research with them and found that, on average, within the first 6 months of joining a new company, 30% of new starters quit. And that was costing companies up to 200% of that employee's salary. It lost productivity, lost morale, recruitment fees, and so on. The #1 reason cited for quitting was a poor onboarding experience. So the Shards can't control how the internal company onboarding process runs, but what they can do is ensure any person joining a company within the Shard has a fantastic first impression. So that's what we set about to achieve with them. So as a bit of background, at this point we'd already worked with the Shard to produce a tenant FM portal. So this was a largely operational, efficiency-driven process. It was used by the management team in the tenant FMs to communicate with each other, to raise permits, to book loading bays, and so on. So they basically had a communication platform at this time. But what they wanted to do was actually communicate with the entire building. They wanted to engage with every single occupier within every company across the estate. And so they wanted to use this platform and open it up to everyone. It seems that the induction booking process, the onboarding process for new staff into the building, was a perfect gateway for that. So that's what we set about to build with them. So I'm going to talk you through how we actually approached this problem and not only delivered a solution that basically kind of satisfied the basic needs of onboarding new staff, but actually delighted the new staff in the process. So you guys are property people, I understand you love a good graph. We've got something here called the Keynote model. So with the Keynote model, what you can do is you can take a product and break it out into its constituent features, and then map those features according to satisfaction. So this is how happy someone will be that that feature exists in a product, and function. So this is how fully realized or how sophisticated the implementation of that function is. So if we take an easy example, a car. Imagine you're shopping for a new car. You go to the car showroom. You consider each of the car's features individually. So you get the wheels, you get the engine, you get the windscreen, the wing mirrors, and so on. If we start with the wheels, in terms of customer satisfaction, when you're thinking about buying a car, you're not going to be thrilled the wheels exist on that car. It's a pretty expected feature. So satisfaction for wheels is probably going to be relatively low. In terms of function, wheels have been around for a while. People know how they work. They've kind of perfected the design, so it's going to have a fairly high function score. So if we map out wheels, it's going to go down in this quadrant. If we look at something like the engine of the car, the function of the engine is probably directly correlated to how much you're going to be spending on it, which is going to be proportional to your satisfaction. So chances are it's going to be in this quadrant somewhere. But what would set a car apart in your mind? What makes this product different from another product? Well, if we're thinking about cars, think about something like a Tesla. They say they've got self-driving functionality. So that's a fantastic new feature, it's a novel feature. As a consumer, you're going to be really excited about that. However, relatively, the implementation of that feature is fairly, it's in its infancy. Although it's a very complex thing to produce, there's a long way to go before self-driving functionality is standard and advanced. So that would go up there. So what we've got now are our quadrants. So what you'll find is down here, you'll get your baseline features. So these are things the product must have to actually function, or the consumer will not buy your product without these features. What you get up the middle are your performance features. So the more of these, the better. Power, processing power, efficiency gains. And in the top quadrant, you get your delighters, your things that really drive customer satisfaction with the product. These are the new shiny bells and whistles that your marketing department will love to shout about. So how did we apply this model to the Shard? What we did was we broke out their customer journey for anyone new coming onto the site. So they wanted to start with in-person inductions. So they wanted to control the induction process that any new starter got. So they had sessions on site. It was run by the management team. They were hosted in the building. They then had the issue of how do you get people into these sessions? How do you actually make them aware? How do you book them in? So we built an online booking platform for tenant reps. So if you're a tenant rep in a company that lives in the Shard, you can go on and you can book your new starters into an induction. You can select when they're starting. You can choose an induction session on that day. You can see capacity, who's hosting it, all that jazz. By extension of that, the person that is joining the company gets pinged an email. It tells them when to arrive, it tells them where to go, what to bring. So they've actually made the first impression, they've made first contact before the person has even come to site at this stage. We've also automatically put the booking into the visitor management system. So when the person does arrive on site, they're automatically expected by the front of house staff. But how do you actually enforce this process? Some of you are property managers. You know how hard it is to get your occupiers to actually follow a process. It's a bit like herding cats. So what we did was we integrated with the building's access control system. So by extension of entering your new starter details on the online booking process, we would then pass that across to the access control system, creating a profile for the new starter, which would then automate the creation of the access card. So when they arrived at the induction session, the access card was there ready and waiting, which meant that everyone had to be booked through this process. By extension, we got a 100% registration rate in the site. So that meant that on an ongoing basis, the building management could communicate and engage with every single occupier across the estate. Everyone was registered online. So how are we doing on our model? We've got some basic compliance features down here, we've got some efficiency gains up here, but nothing really from the point of view of the person coming to site that would really set this apart. No real point of difference. So what we did was work with the Shard on this. So this is a Shard card. It's presented to all new starters in your induction session. You get a lovely little presentation wallet with your access card and the Shard card. And this gives you access to exclusive offers and benefits that are only available if you work with a company in the Shard. So we worked with the management team there to actually approach local retailers, and it was part of their 106 requirements. They had to engage with the local community, so it was a tick in the box there. This is not just stuff like 10% off your coffee at Pret though. This is stuff like free bottles of Prosecco, this is free fitness classes. If you go to one of the bars in the Shard and present you this card, they will give you a secret cocktail menu from behind the bar with £5 cocktails in it, which is dangerous. So we meet with the guys at the Shard at least once a month. We review which offers are currently live. We analyse how people are redeeming these offers. We analyse views of these offers. And then we can shape the offers that are coming up in the future to actually drive further engagement of their building occupiers. It seems that from that analysis, booze and fitness seem to be quite popular. Kind of a yin and a yang situation going on with the guys there. So great, we've now got a delighter feature, something that's going to set this apart from any other induction you've had at another building. So that was version 1. We've launched that, it's been running very well for the last couple of years. But since then the situation has changed. The workspace has evolved. So I'm sure some of you are familiar with the rise of remote and flexible working. So it's said that by 2020, 50% of the workforce is going to be able to work remotely or flexibly. So they're no longer actually coming to the office. So if they're no longer coming to the office, how do you actually control their first impression? And does it even matter anymore? Well, the guys at the Shard thought it did. They thought if you're at a company in the Shard, you should share in the ethos and the energy that comes with that. And so they wanted to still control this first impression. It was valuable to them. So what we did was we took the induction booking session that was previously held in a physical space in the building and made it digital. So now if you're booking a new starter into your company, you can select whether they're coming in for an in-person induction or an online induction. If they go to an online induction, they go online, they activate their account, they can watch a video introducing them to the building. They answer some randomized questions to make sure they weren't actually asleep during the video. And then they activate their account, they approve the induction. By extension of that, we can actually serve them individualized, personalized content. So because it's digital, we now know who the person is, which company they work at, potentially which role they work at in their company, which floor they're on, and as such, rather than just hosting a general session and giving them general building information, you can serve individualized content, actually specific down to an individual person. So it could point out their relevant fire exits, or you could have a company-specific section of the induction. So they've got Shangri-La and Sage in the building. They can actually piggyback and have a Shangri-La induction for all new starters online as part of this process. As the process is online, you can also control the flow of what happens after that induction. So if they pass the induction, you can then serve them further guides, further information. You can tailor their journey online according to who they are and what they need to see. So if they happen to be a tenant rep, you could go on and give them a guide about how to raise permits or how to use the BMS to change the environmental systems or the windows in their floor. So that was version 2 of the system. It's been working very well for the last year. We're now evolving that with them. So we're currently working with them on a VR version of their online inductions. So we're evolving the video that is shown online to actually be immersive. So we can now give them 3D tours of their floor, of the estate, again, company-specific VR introductions. So they've essentially visited site before they've even arrived. We're also investigating the use of facial recognition technology. So we're integrating this into our system. So when someone arrives on site for the first time, they're actually recognized by the front of house staff automatically. They know where they need to go and they can give them a personalized greeting. Initial tests and feedback has found that that's actually a bit creepy, if you know who someone is before you know who they are. So we're actually looking at using this technology slightly more in the background. So we'll use it to open access gates when they arrive, or display personalized information on advertising screens in the building, that kind of stuff. Cool, so that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of how we've used UX principles at the Shard to optimize user experience of their onboarding process. Hopefully I've given you guys something to think about in your own building. If there's something I'd like you to take away, it's that you're going to be hearing a lot about the AIs, the machine learnings, the blockchains, all fantastic technologies. Consider these delighters. What you should really focus on initially is mapping out every touch point your customer has within your building and making sure you've actually got the baseline core features correct first. Make sure you've digitized all of your processes. Make sure you've automated every single thing that you can before you then focus on the new and the flashy, and that's going to make the real difference initially. Thank you very much for your time.